A common question people ask before coming to Thailand is which is better suited for them, Phuket or Koh Samui. And I think a good way of describing them both is the Big Buddha in Koh Samui is a fraction of the size of the Big Buddha in Phuket. And Phuket is almost like a version of now the plane's gone. Phuket almost feels like a steroided up version of Koh Samui. A lot of things are similar, but just bigger, more choices, a bit more hectic in places, a bit more choices. But in this video, I will show you the pros and cons of both, why one might be better suited for you and why it might not be. And I will look at it through the lens of a digital nomad and a tourist and give you the for and against for both places. So stick around and let's get stuck in. Both Koh Samui and Phuket are two of the most popular places where people are going to visit in Thailand, and they're also the two biggest islands outside of the mainland, of course, in Thailand, which is why a lot of people are either uncertain which one to pick or prefer one over the other, and why they're so popular, because at the end of the day they have a lot of the comforts, amenities and options that we would want when we go on holiday or when we set up longer term as a digital nomad. They're both in the south of Thailand, so experience relatively similar weather, albeit with a little bit difference in the months that they get the weather. They're both fairly busy and built up for tourism, and both have many options for accommodation, for things to do, for all of the things that you would associate and expect with Thailand, or at least with the tropical island sense of Thailand. So I'm going to start with the pros and cons of Koh Samui as I'm here right now. Firstly, despite the cars and bikes that keep going by, it is a little bit quieter. Still very busy, still got a lot of tourism, still gets traffic, but it's a little bit quieter in the sense of you can find more nuggets of the island that have less people there. It also feels very much like you're on an island here. There's a laid-back feel, and even the police presence is less. But let me put it like this, when you're on an island in Thailand, things generally just chill more, less rules, and more of a slow pace with everything. And you definitely get more of that here and more of a feel here, even though it is still built up for tourism and for foreigners quite often here. You still get that vibe of slow paced Thai life on an island. For example, I'm 5 minutes off the beaten track, and already you can see it's got more of a feel like you're just kind of in the countryside or in a small little area, even though really and truly 2 minutes down the road it's going to be busy and you're going to be in quite a touristy area. And even just further along this road you've got some massive hotels that are super expensive, but right here you've got some villas, little shops and shacks and local street food, and the roads aren't quite as nice and paved and built up, and it feels genuinely like you're on an island. Now there is a downside to that, and one of the biggest downsides I see and feel is there's a little more friction to actually get here. You've got to take another flight from Bangkok, or you need to catch a ferry over, which for me quite often is just a little bit of ag that I could do without. And that, I think, is a con. It's definitely a con for me. And the airport is called Samui International Airport, but when you actually look for an international flight, you're going to pay ridiculous money, and the choices are so few and far between that it's pretty much not an international airport at all. It's pretty much Bangkok to Samui with the occasional other domestic flight. I am melting here, so I've taken a chance to sit down in the shade and I'll share this next bit with you. Beaches. Beaches in Samui are nice. They are very nice. We're in Thailand. They're not as nice as some other beaches I've been to, and you've got one or two that are a lot nicer than others. But overall, if we're doing a Phuket vs Samui, Phuket wins. It's got nicer beaches overall, and it's got more choices of them. Now, the weather in Samui. This is a plus point and a down point. It's a pro and a con. Most of the weather will come in November, October, and stretch through to December as well, but it's more evenly spread throughout the year. For example, you will get dribs and drabs of rain almost in every month of the year in Samui. In Phuket, it tends to be more specific to certain times of the year. For example, I've just spent August in Samui and it was beautiful the whole month, and August is actually a high month in Samui, whereas August is a low month in Phuket, and almost everywhere in Thailand, August is a low season month or a more rainy month, whereas here it's been pretty dry and blue skies 75% of the time. The nightlife is good enough. You've got Chaweng, which is the main hub for the nightlife. You've got Lamai, which has some nightlife, and generally speaking, you're going to be fine overall. If you want to come party, if you want to come drink, cool, you're going to have that. You're going to have everything you need here. It might not be quite as big and quite as hectic and quite as crazy as Phuket, but you're still going to have plenty of choice. And also you have the added plus, if you are here to party or want to do the full moon party, then every 4 weeks or 1 month you have that over in Koh Samui, which is just a speedboat journey away or a ferry journey away, and then you can go there, experience that, and you can base yourself in Samui, and it's literally 30 to 50 minutes away on a boat. That happens once a month. Now, I guess you'd expect this because the island is smaller, but there's less things to do on the island. There's less tourist attractions. And if you were coming on holiday, you would probably get bored a little bit quicker if you were someone that wants to be constantly doing things. You have got day trips and tours from the island, like Ang Thong National Park. Koh Tao, Koh Phangan, and maybe a few others like Pig Island or something like that. But generally you have got less options here than in Phuket, and I'll tell you about a few of the Phuket options for excursions, etc. later on. But when you're actually on the island, there is less to do here if you were staying longer term and just a tourist. From a digital nomad's perspective, you're not going to want to be doing things all of the time, and there are waterfalls like Nam Wang, I think I said that right, waterfall, which I've done. It's beautiful. There are a few other things, but not tons. There's not loads to do. It's more like beach clubs and going for drinks, watching Muay Thai, training, and just living, and maybe going to a resort or going to a beach. There's less things to actually do on the island. Maybe you could do some elephant sanctuaries, those kind of bits, but there's less to do here. That is something to note, but you would probably expect that because it's smaller. Now, this is a con for me and a con if you are a digital nomad, in my opinion, and this is probably a pro for a tourist or holiday maker. The accommodation here, you have got less condos, more little bungalows or villas, and if you are staying longer term, if you're like me, I prefer a condo. I feel more secure. I like having a swimming pool. I like having the security of just knowing that there is 24/7 security on the complex. All of them things I quite like. And just from a digital nomad's perspective, from a tourist perspective, you've got some really nice hotels here. However, the cost of the accommodation in Samui overall is not cheap. It can be a little bit more expensive. So shop around, but be aware it's not the cheapest, even if you're staying longer term. Such a local feel along this little road. Another thing, more so for the digital nomads or the people staying here longer term, training, Muay Thai and gyms, you've got an abundant choice on the island in Koh Samui, so you're not going to be stuck. But some of them can be 15-20 minute drive away if you pick the wrong area. So what I would do, if you're keen to train at a specific Muay Thai gym, have a look around the island and see where the gym is that you want to train at or that appeals to you most, and try and book your accommodation within a short ride away. This is a pro still for Samui, 100%. You've still got good gyms, good Muay Thai here. However, Phuket is a clear winner, and I'll explain why in a minute. Talk about food. I haven't been in Koh Samui long enough to tell you that it's better or worse than Phuket. What I can tell you is some of the best food I've had in Thailand has been in Koh Samui. And I've spent more time in Phuket, so you would expect me to have had nicer food there. And I'm not saying Phuket's food is bad. It's got a wide choice. It's very nice. You can pretty much eat anything, anytime. However, the meals I've had in Koh Samui have been very nice, so maybe they're a draw, or maybe I haven't eaten at the right places in Phuket, but so far I would say Samui wins for that, or at least it's a huge pro of coming here, and you're going to be spoiled for choice with restaurants, with food, and good food at that as well. Because Koh Samui is smaller, I would probably say that it's easier to get around than Phuket, but simply for that reason, I wouldn't say there's any other reason for making it easier to get around. You've still got traffic here, but because it is smaller, it will take you less time to get to most places you want to get to than it will in Phuket. You've got a big shopping mall here, which does mean that you're going to have some of the home comforts and Western amenities that you might want, especially if you're here longer term. And another thing to note with the excursions is that if the weather is bad here, the sea can get a little bit choppy, and by a little bit it can get pretty choppy and tours can get cancelled, and sometimes even the ferry coming over can get cancelled, which makes accessibility to get here a little bit more difficult during certain times of the year. That's something to bear in mind if you're time scarce and booking during the seasons when weather can be worse. Now let's get stuck into Phuket. For me, Phuket is strong in so many ways, and the ways that let it down, so we'll start with a con, is that it's so touristy now that it can be busy all of the time, which makes traffic a little bit worse. It can make finding quiet spots of the island a little bit harder. It can just feel like it's lost this identity of Thailand. That's what it feels like to me. One of the big pros is that it's got an international airport that you can get to from pretty much any area of the world. So if you're coming from the UK, if you're coming from the UAE, if you're coming from America, whatever, you've got the airport in Phuket that you can fly straight into that just makes life a little bit easier. You don't need to catch a ferry, you don't need to catch a bus, and the airport is genuinely international and globally connected rather than international. However, it only flies to about 2 places. The cost of places is again comparable to Samui. They're pretty similar in ways, because even though I think the accommodation is more expensive in Samui, certain other things are a little bit cheaper, like training and gyms, and eating out can be a little bit cheaper here. But Phuket's accommodation, for the most part, you can find better deals. I think that's because there's more choices, and as I mentioned earlier, I prefer condos, which is where I am now, and for me that's a huge plus. You have so many more condos to choose from in Phuket, especially if you're staying longer term, rather than here in Samui. You have more hotels, bungalows, villas, etc. Now if you get bored of the nightlife in Phuket, you pretty much got no hope. You've got every area nigh on having a good level of nightlife, but just get yourself over to Patong if you're really keen on going out and getting amongst it, and you'll probably never get bored. You've also got Rawai, you've got Kata, you've got Karon, all that have elements of nightlife. You've got Phuket town. Mostly the north of the island is going to be a little bit quieter, but there's not as much going on at all. That's near the airport. In the south of the island, you've got a lot going on. You're going to struggle to get bored if nightlife is your thing. So Phuket wins on that one, but it's not because Samui's nightlife is dead, it's because Phuket's nightlife is wild. Now for the digital nomads, internet connection, fast in Samui, fast in Phuket. you're not going to have a problem there. Internet connection, absolutely sound. And in fact, I would say, I don't know whether it's the condo I'm at, but if I had to pick one, Samui's internet connection so far has been tip top. It's been uploading these YouTube videos in like minutes versus like 30 to 60 minutes in Phuket or in the UK. So I don't know what that means, but it's been good here. Excursions, if you want to do many trips, Phuket wins all day. And that is just because you can go to so many places from there. You can go to Krabi region, you can go to the PP Islands, you go to the Sitmalan Islands, you can go to Panya, you can do so many things. You've got like loads of islands scattered around Phuket as well, just for like mini day trips. And yeah, you've just got a lot of things to do there. On the island, you've got beach clubs, you've got different areas to explore. The beaches are incredible all across the island. It's not just like you have one or two that are really beautiful. You have probably 10 beaches that are worth a day out just on their own. The excursions are generally all easy to do, and you can even get to Samui quite easily from Phuket, and you can get to Phuket quite easily from Samui. It's going to take you best part of a full day, but neither are hard to get to from each other. However, the day trips are much easier to get to from Phuket. In terms of things to do and places to see, I think again Phuket has to win, because you've got the Big Buddha, which is much bigger and the views are much more impressive than what they are here in Samui's Big Buddha. We've got viewpoints. Every little area of Phuket has something a little bit different to offer and seems slightly different and has different character. As I mentioned earlier though, it has lost a lot of the authentic feel of Thailand, so Samui wins in that aspect, but in terms of the amount to do and the different areas that offer different things and feel different, Phuket would probably just win that, just because of its size, again, having more choice. Training and gyms, Phuket wins, but only because it has more choice. I know I keep saying this, but it's not to say the standard of training in Phuket is better. I'll leave that up to you to decide, because everybody has their own personal experience, but it's just the fact that you have more choice. I've never been anywhere, and I don't think there is anywhere in the world that has more Muay Thai and MMA gyms in one confined area. You have so much to choose from. You have CrossFit gyms, you have normal gyms, you have like everything in between. But Muay Thai and MMA in particular, I don't think there's any place on earth where you have more gyms per square mile than what you do in Phuket. So for that reason, if you wanted just an abundant choice of gyms, Phuket wins. If you want to find the right gym for you, that could be here or that could be there. You've got plenty of choices in Samui, you've got loads of choices here still, but just Phuket, you have a ridiculous amount of choices. That's the big difference there. Guys, overall, there's a reason why Phuket and Samui are two of the most popular places, or the two most popular islands to travel to in Thailand. They've both got their pros and cons. They're both amazing places to travel to. That's just my own personal perspective and opinion, and I'm keen to get yours. I'm sure there's some things I've missed out or that I'll remember once I've posted this, but both have their pros and cons. This is where I stand on it, and I hope you found this video useful. Let me know your opinion and your thoughts down in the comments. If you think there's something I've missed, let me know. And as always, I appreciate you tuning in, and I'll catch you in the next one.